Okay, so a little bit about me. My name is Alsex Saunders, also known as Kitty from Port City Kitty Cosplay. I've been cosplaying since 2002, like you've all heard, and I was originally drawn to the hobby through Halloween. So a friend of mine was having a Final Fantasy theme. Oh my God. Okay, so cosplay is short for costume play. So essentially when you dress... When you think of dressing up, you think of Halloween or maybe those nerds at comic book conventions. Well, as a nerd from one of those comic book conventions, I'm here to set the record straight. Cosplay is short for costume play. It's a performance art that started in Japan, where the artist not only creates a costume of a character, but then acts out the character's personality and interactions with other cosplayers and even the general public, like you muggles. Cosplay has become popular on an international scale, with conventions popping up just about everywhere. One little example of a convention you may have heard of is San Diego Comic-Con, which has a yearly attendance of 130,000 people from all over the world. Closer to home, we have HalCon, which is a multi-genre convention located in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Whew. Okay, here we go. Sorry, guys. So Rule 63, essentially that... You know what? I'm going to go back and I'm just going to let the slides go. So what can you cosplay from? The answer is just about anything. There's quite a few standard types of media that you can cosplay from. These would be comic books, television shows, movies, Japanese animation, video games, and even just Japanese fashion in general. That being said, there are many other iconic things in the nerd community that have been cosplayed. In 2003, two cosplayers from Atlanta, Georgia went to Dragon Con dressed as the Atlanta Marriott carpet, which is recognizable for anyone who's been to the venue. So who can cosplay? It's a hobby for everyone, and it brings people of all different races, creeds, genders together. So it doesn't matter how old you are or what you look like or where you're from, you can still cosplay. It's not just the basement dwellers that participate in cosplay, although I do love my basement. The picture that was on this slide is a character, it was a predator from the film of the same name. And what you don't know about the person in that costume is that that's an 8-year-old girl who likes to cosplay Predator. In all cases, gender doesn't matter either. Any character that exists can be gender swapped, which is essentially changing the gender, which brings us to Rule 63, which we are not even close to at all. So for each fictional character, there's an opposite gendered counterpart. To bring up my first example, this is my friend Jaden. She's actually dressed as Naruto Uzumaki from an anime called Naruto, and she's the female version of what is normally a male character. Thank you very much. So not only does cosplay do gender bending of its characters, it also does humanized cosplay. If any of you have kids, you've probably seen the show My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. Well, people actually take those My Little Pony characters and then turn them into humanized versions of themselves. Now, yes, we do know that that is a show for little girls, but a large portion of its viewership is males age 18 to 40 plus. Just saying. Then we have crossover cosplay, where you take a whole bunch of different things and you mix it together to create an original character. My friend Joe Hatfield here is actually a combination of not only a Klingon from Star Trek, but also a Green Lantern character as well. So then we have crossplay, which is like nerdy drag, and that's essentially taking a character that is genuinely male or female, and then you, being the opposite gender, go and do the kind of drag thing and become that character. That happens quite a bit. It's more centralized to female to male crossplay as opposed to the other way around, but it does happen. So there's different types of cosplay. There's anime cosplay, which is kind of the roots of cosplay, given that it was based in Japan. There's Japanese fashion, which you get into things like Lolita cosplay. It's not really cosplay, it's more of a pseudo-cosplay, but that's all based on having kind of a youthful, modest, innocent look, lots of frilly dresses, really great. Comic book cosplay, which is Batman, Iron Man, all that sort of thing. I'm actually partaking in comic book cosplay today myself. I'm dressed as Harley Quinn, who you may also know as the Joker's girlfriend. Then there's video game cosplay. This covers everything from Super Mario to Mass Effect, and even 8-bit games from way back in the day get cosplayed as well. Then there's movie and TV cosplay, which is the majority of what you see out there. That started back with Star Wars and Star Trek. So if you remember those people that were super nerdy, kind of smelled and went to conventions, that's a little bit of where it started. And I'm not saying that smelly people don't happen today. They do. There's just less of them. Now, we do have a few costume associations within the Maritimes that you may not know of. Atlantic Canada houses 3 particular places, or particular groups. There's CAG Canada, which is the Klingon Assault Group, which Joe is part of. There's the Mandalorian Mercs, which is, you remember Boba Fett? That's a whole race of people, and that's how they dress. And then there's the 501st Legion, which is a group of Star Wars costumers. They get together, they do a lot of charity events, they show up in a lot of hospitals, sick kids, all that sort of stuff. And it's based off the actual villains of Star Wars. And believe it or not, they're so prolific that George Lucas wrote them into the universe. So what can cosplay be made of? It can pretty much be made of anything. Most of it's fabric-based, although we do have people that come out and they make armor out of things like, you know, those foam mats that you can get the big puzzle pieces? Yeah, people make armor out of that, believe it or not, using hot glue and heat guns and all kinds of things. And that moves on to fabric-based cosplay. That's a lot of what I do. I have had to do things, you may have seen a relatively scantily clad picture of me flash by in a different costume. I actually had to engineer a bra that was both frontless and backless and still held everything in, and I did it. And then last but not least, and perhaps my face today is an excellent example of this, we get props and accessories and makeup. People will go ahead and learn things from movie makeup to special effects makeup and whatnot. My face today, and on average, usually takes me an hour and a half to get ready before I've even put on any costume at all. So I just want to thank my models that I had here, Jaden, Joe, and should you cosplay? Absolutely. Can you do it any day of the year? Yes, and that's the great thing about it. It's not just Halloween. We don't just go to a store and buy a costume. We put every fiber of our being into the clothes that you see here today, and that's what cosplay is about. It brings people together. It encourages you to participate in charity events, especially things where, you know, you've got children that are sick in the hospital. A lot of people will do that type of work as well. And I would highly suggest that you start planning your Halloween costume now, because let me tell you, in that many months, you can certainly make one hell of a costume.